Hello and welcome to my follow-up video from last week. Now, there was quite a bit of feedback, a lot of it negative, and I'll address that later. And this week we've been working hard with trying to handle issues with our Jasmine from school. Her autism is creating some behaviors that we're needing to get a hold of, and so we are going to be working with her on that, because we're trying to curl her as far in life as possible so that she's able to be as independent as possible into the future, because at some point Owen and I aren't going to be around. And Owen is in the shop building a wandering staircase to get up into the mezzanine. So yeah, he's busy doing that on this glorious day. I thought I would come outside and do some videotaping. Now, in talking about my cousin, she's from the other side of Canada, and she had wanted to come meet with me, and I arranged it in a town 10 minutes away from where she was staying, which was the parents' farm. And I drove the hour to get there at a coffee shop. And yeah, we seemed to get along fine. It was a lot of exploratory discussions. The talking was free-flowing both directions. Some of the things that she centered me out on felt a little uncomfortable, but I didn't see that I had anything to lose other than being myself. The first one was within a couple minutes of sitting down across from me with her cup of tea, she goes, "Are you a Christian?" And I'm thinking, well, there's a question that you really shouldn't be popping out with a stranger immediately, because so I just answered her, and she said, "Do you believe in God then?" And I said what I said. Yeah, but nothing of what I explained to her seemed to bother her at all. She was very chatty, very friendly, very, very, very religious. Everything she said was peppered with proselytizing, preaching, and that kind of a stuff of which I am uncomfortable with. It doesn't align with my thinking at all. And I was trying to decide how to explain a bit about where her beliefs is, because she will find God in everything, and basically the way I look at it is being mindful of what's around you, noticing the good. And so for her, she attributes everything good to God, and I attribute everything good to it's good. And I didn't want to quiz her further on why just God of the lost keys. Like, God, you pray to God for your keys that you misplaced, and by gum, there it is. Or you pray to God for a parking spot, there it is. Or in this weekend, you pray that your football team wins. So now each group is praying for that. All the people that are betting are praying for their combinations to come in. So that kind of a praying thing, or God of the lost keys idea. Because then she's talking about how she lost her two sisters that I was friends with. One passed of colorectal cancer, one passed of esophageal cancer. Her own husband 7 years ago passed from adhesions in his brain that left him with seizures until he died. Now, prayers were going up for all this as well. But nothing happened there as far as one can tell. No healings, no anything like this. Just keys were found. Luggage that she had overpacked got told she wasn't allowed to bring it along to China on emissions, and so she decided this was God looking after her, because then there wouldn't have been enough space inside the van. And so basically everything that she talked about, she brought back to God, and well, that's her life and that's her beliefs, and that's fine. But I just spent a lot of time like this, smiling, listening, we got to compare our growing up years. Now her dad was a brother to my mom, and her mom was a sister to my dad. So we are double cousins, and they started their farming life a mile away from us. And she sees her life as rich in adventures and fun and all that kind of stuff. I mean, she was on every team at school and had a wonderful upbringing that way. And she spoke as if that was the same as mine. And even though we were a mile away, my upbringing was not that at all. Never got to play in any sports teams, never got to do anything, farming, working the fields, church on Sunday, and a lot of abuse. Now, her mom was a protector. When there were perverts around and such, the mom made sure that the daughter was safe, or at least she was safe. There are different stories from her sisters. Her sisters didn't get away as easily from sexual assault that she did from the relative in our family who was doing that sort of a thing. And I explained to her, I said, no, my upbringing was hiding underneath the bed. And when this person came and getting dragged out and belted because I didn't greet my abuser, the one who likes to grope and grab and all that kind of stuff, I didn't greet him properly. So she kind of looked at me with big eyes, like this was news to her, that my upbringing was not her upbringing. And so it was probably kind of good for her to know. I'm glad I made the meeting to get to know her a bit better. She did try to speak up for my parents a bit, not as badly as I thought it was going to go. And by the end of our 3-hour lunch, she said, yeah, just be out at our peaceful place and build a happy life out here. I was quite open with her about everything. I didn't hide anything. I didn't try to be a chameleon. I didn't try to whitewash my raising, because she had a different experience than hers. And the visit ended well. I received a message the day after saying that she enjoyed meeting me and wanted to keep in touch. And so as far as I'm concerned, that's probably the best we could have done in our circumstances. We are very different people, but I think she's also missing probably relatives. Her people are dying out. She's losing her blood relatives. She didn't feel the need to go up to Edmonton, where there's a couple of aunts and a whole bunch of cousins. She says they get lots of company, but my parents do not, and so that's why she chose to go to my parents' place. And yeah, it did go well, and I'm glad I did it. Now onto the fallout of all this. Lots of negativity about my last video, and I do appreciate the comments that are that way to a point. It gives me food for thought, stuff that I might not have considered. And yeah, I discuss all this with my husband, and we think on these things. And there was a couple of comments on the last video to do with the trustworthiness of myself, in that I was not trustworthy because I speak about my children. And they might have a point there. We're to protect our children. Then again, they are middle-aged, and part of the mess of my life is how to handle certain things in the adult. And you can't even call them children because they're middle-aged. I think you've got to come up with a different word other than child. You're turning them into infants. One had lots and lots and lots to say about the money issue. That when I said that I couldn't trust a couple of family members on the money issue, she ranted quite a bit. And then I came in the next day and she had doubled the length of it. And again, just went on and on and on about money and how the kids that were trustworthy in paying back, that asked for the loans and paid them back, well, clearly they didn't need the loans. And that's not clear at all. Now, these loans that I'm talking about aren't just 20 bucks here, 100 bucks there. These loans are thousands of dollars in size. And the latest one was with my daughter that I do trust in that area. She went from one house to another. She sold one house, she bought another, and the finances were at this awkward stage where she needed to show X amount in her account to satisfy the bank gods and the mortgage gods or whatever it was. And because she's proved herself trustworthy back then, I was going to be okay with giving a $60,000 loan if she needed. That's what I meant about trusting in that area, because with another child, that money, you'd never see it again. And being on a fixed income, those kinds of loans actually affect the retired folks more. The reason that I'd spoke of the untrustworthiness on the money aspect is because it had to do with my son, who is middle-aged, but he's an addict. He's an addict on drugs and on booze, and his behaviors and his financial issues all stem from that. And until he's willing to get help and fix that area, the loaning of money just leads to more and more of that sort of a thing. And as far as big chunks, it could end up killing him because drugs, right? And so then I have to guess on that. But maybe the truth is I'm working on my trustworthiness. And I would like to be able to speak about how to parent the addicts, the middle-aged addicts who continue to reach out for stuff. Not because they love you, but because they want stuff, money, belongings, or whatever, right? I'd like to be able to speak about how to handle the addicts in life, because there they are. It's not a secret to anybody. If somebody found my videos, everybody knows he's middle-aged. The whole family knows. Everybody knows. His work people, his friends. It's common knowledge at this point. It started at 17 and he's turning 40. So yeah, sometimes I will talk about being a parent of an addict and what that means. And if that makes me untrustworthy in some people's eyes, then I guess it is. So be it. And how to feel when a child doesn't defend to the family that's shunning. Well, that's a painful thing for me, and I will talk about it. I'm not going to hide from it. Maybe there are going to be people watching this whose lives aren't sweet and swell, and who do have the addicts in the family, who do have the awkwardness that one's wanted to deal with and wants to talk about, to know that they are not alone. The other one, somebody had read, I've watched the video from when we were, how we became late in life parents. I told the story of how all that came to be. Now, they were proclaiming how, yes, we were a terrible family, but they were including me, and you are part of the terrible family. You are also terrible. And maybe I am. Maybe in some eyes I am. But there were reasons why we made the decisions that we did then. This commenter said we were terrible because none of the siblings wanted to be guardian of our little sister, who was at that point 40, and with mental illness and whatnot. But that everybody wanted the baby, and how terrible. And also that I called the husband a hillbilly. I don't recall calling him a hillbilly. I think he looked homeless, and I'm thinking that he was. But when you take guardianship, we all went to a meeting at the hospital that the good Lord, that the psychiatrist asked us to be. And that's when he asked if one of us in the family would be willing to be a guardian on her, because in his mind, she was incapable of taking care of herself, that she would need probably someday a group home, that kind of a thing. Now, before you jump into something like guardianship, I think it's smart to find out what that means. You don't just naively say yes, and then you go exploring on what it is. Best to figure out what that means. And we did. my relationship with her was awful. It was full of abuse and yelling and slamming phones and name calling, and that was my relationship with her. And to then agree to be her guardian, I can't imagine what life would be, because at first you didn't even know what it meant. So I wrote it up again as to what it meant to be a guardian on an adult, whether it's your sister, your mother, your child, if they can't look after themselves. That we might have to do with our Jasmine someday if she stalls out in her maturity. Now, guardianship, you look after I have them a list. You look after their health care needs. And I was looking at the list going, if you live an hour away, how do you do any of this stuff? Unless you live with these people, how do you manage to do any of this? You have no control, but you are given all this responsibility. You are in charge of where they live. Well, how do you make them live anywhere? They're going to do what they're going to do. She went flitting from here to Edmonton to wherever on her own. I mean, she's not asking permission, she's just going. So how do you control that? You can deal with who she associates with. Again, how do you handle that? How do you handle with any of her friends or anything like? Unless you're living with her and watching over her like a child almost? How do you handle her associates? You participate in her education, vocations, and other trainings. That would be not too bad, I guess. Easy to help out with that. You have a say in her employment. I'm not sure how that works. And legal proceedings, which I can see that happening. But a lot of it is you've got to live with these people that you're guardian over. You have to be prepared to move them into your home and to handle the severe mental illness that comes with her and the chaos that comes with her. So to say, yep, I'm going to do this without researching it and what it would mean for you, your marriage, can it handle this? So basically all of us looked at our lives and went, it wouldn't work. Best to just get a public guardian, a stranger who there's no personal relationship in there to handle this kind of a stuff. Because otherwise, if I'm let's say the guardian and I'm saying no to this or no to that, and then you're going to get yelled at and screamed at, and what a horrible, it just looked awful. And so that was the reason we didn't. And at the point of deciding about the guardianship, we hadn't stood up for having the child. We didn't put our hand up for nothing. It was only my oldest brother in Winnipeg. It was after the child was born, which was like half a year later, and it was social services calling us to see if we could do this because there was no, my sister did not sign off on adopting out this baby. She was fighting to keep this baby, which she did for 3 years. And so there had to be visitations 3 days a week. We had to be able to facilitate that. And if you're out of province, there's no way you can facilitate anything. So that's how it came to be that we agreed to step up rather than have the child put in foster care. But somebody saw this as just being, I am also a part of that terrible group. We are all just terrible, terrible people, and that their prayers was for the child. And yeah, pray for the child. But yeah, it was interesting to read the comments, to see how they watch one video and decide this certain thing that I am as terrible as everybody else in the family on everything, and maybe, who knows, right? I'm doing my best here to get my life together, to improve my life. I certainly haven't reached it yet. It's a work in progress for me, and I have certainly made mistakes, and I've certainly really screwed up on quite a few things. But when I look back on that time, 10 years ago, or 11 years ago, when we were dealing with psychiatric hospitals and dealing with the guardianship issues, I would make the same decision today. I'm not going to do it. I just won't. I'll help where I can as long as she is not abusive. But as far as taking over as guardian, I won't do it. And if I'm bad for that, I'm bad for that. I'll accept that. So yeah, that was the fallout from the last video. The meeting with my cousin wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. And she actually seemed to enjoy that I'm pretty blunt about everything, that I'm not like the rest of the very religious family. She just seemed fine with it all and quite enjoying it and smiling and laughing. And it was a decent visit. And so yeah, we'll see how it goes the next time she comes flitting through to Alberta. She did invite me to Montreal, but yeah, no. No, that's not going to happen. But yeah, she'll come out to see my folks again, I'm sure, and we'll see how things go. And this is Annette from Carpe Omnia after 60. You take care of yourself. Enjoy the beautiful weather. Bye-bye.